Lights Out is based off of a short film directed by David F. Sandberg. If you have not checked out Lights Out, please go on YouTube now. It's one of the scariest, craziest little short films. It's only about 3 minutes long. Turn out the lights, turn on the speakers, and have a good little scare.
Go to the bathroom first or you might pee your pants.
Exactly. So Lights Out is also directed by David F. Sandberg. This is his directorial debut, and it stars Maria Bello, Teresa Palmer, and Gabriel Bateman. And the basic story is when her little brother Martin experiences the same events that once tested her sanity, Rebecca works to unlock the truth behind the terror, which brings her face to face with an entity that has an attachment to their mother, Sophie. So, what do you think of Lights Out?
It definitely spoke well to the short that it was based off of. I felt it stayed true to it. It was really cool how, the bad guy or the bad... we'll call it the bad guy, but yeah, the monster is always right there in the dark, and it's like afraid, compelled by the light. So it's the whole, the thing, good versus evil, dark versus light type of thing. It was really cool. I enjoyed it. We saw it in theaters, so it wasn't nearly as scary as I thought it would be, but it's definitely something I would recommend buying and watching it at home in the dark. Alone. Yeah,
I'm kind of the opinion. A lot of people say this horror movies you have to see in the theaters, and for whatever reason, I always feel like they're scarier when we're at home.
Oh yeah,
and
we
have the lights off and the surround sound, and we're surrounded by silence. I almost hate going to see horror movies in the theaters just because of how everybody acts. You get the people who are loud, and once a scare comes up, they're laughing for the next 5 minutes, and you can't hear anything that's going on.
Or you get the really scaredy cats who are like, when something happened, and they're like,
girl,
don't go in there.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. You get those people.
Get a knife.
Exactly.
I ain't got no weapon.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just something that I think we're different than most people.
If I watch it at home, I have to hey, come to the bathroom with me, make sure the door's shut. I'm walking around with a knife or a taser.
Yeah, I'm like your fucking bodyguard for the next 16 hours.
I don't even want to take Jax outside.
Exactly. So the key to a good horror movie nowadays to me is you have to have a really good hook. And this movie does really well at having a great hook and a setup,
I agree.
With the scariest, or a really scary monster. The fact that it can only go in the dark is something that's really simple, but it preys on the fears that everybody, regardless if you really admit it or not, everybody's scared of the dark to a degree.
Oh, hell
So,
yeah.
to me, it was a really good hook. And Sandberg has a real natural talent as a horror director. I feel like he's kind of be taken under James Wan's wing now, because James Wan produced this. And I wouldn't be surprised if now, they're announcing they're trying to get ready to get going on Conjuring 3. And James Wan doesn't tend to stick to one property for too long. I wouldn't be so surprised if Sandberg ends up directing Conjuring 3. And from what I've seen in this movie, I think he'd do a good job with it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the monster a lot in this movie too, because like you say, how everything it's just such a great film. It's set up nice. It's just scary enough that you never see her. You know what I'm saying? You see the shadow, and you see she's scary, but you're not quite sure.
It's one of those movies where they realize that what you don't see is scarier than what you do see.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a brief scene where you do see what the monster looks like in the light, and it's nowhere near as scary as like just the silhouette and the apparition of it being in the dark.
Oh, I agree.
It's one of those, you could tell that the director knew, and even in his short, you could tell that he knows that what's in your head is always scarier than what's on the screen sometimes.
Yeah, he played well.
Yeah, so
he did well with everything.
To me, also, the acting is a lot better in this movie than your average horror movie, too. Like, it's a very small cast. And, Maria Bello I've always liked, and I've seen a little bit of Teresa Palmer. But
which one is Teresa Palmer?
The main girl, the blonde.
Okay, the daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, to me, the acting was good in this, and they really sold the whole family dynamic of them being estranged and kind of being... torn on whether or not how much they're really close to their mother.
Yeah.
And, it was real believable for me. And I liked how the story was really focused, and they didn't waste a whole lot of time on a bunch of pointless, side stories or random characters coming in. It was very focused on the four main people. There's, the family and the boyfriend. And there wasn't really any strain from that.
The only thing that was kind of out of the way was the dad in the very beginning, but I feel like they needed that to start the story.
Yeah, they needed that for the
they gave
opening.
You just enough that you didn't know who he was at first, and you see him Skyping with his son, and so you realize it's like, oh, okay, that's who he is, and then you see what happens, and you're like, oh shit, and then you find out more as the story goes on about how it might not be the first time it's ever happened, and you find out why it does. So that was really cool as well.
Yeah, I liked how they kind of trimmed the fat with this. They didn't, like I said, they didn't go waste a whole lot of time on pointless side stories. And, and even the backstory or the explanation for the monster
was short.
Well, yeah, it was simple and it wasn't overly explained. They didn't have to like find a reasonable explanation for every single thing about the monster. It was just kind of like... It was
cool, too, because they only talked about it a few times. They talk about it a little bit when the daughter finds some old memorabilia. And then they talk about it a little bit more when the mother is explaining, and she kind of tells them what happened, but a more simplified version.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They didn't over-explain it. So, yeah. And I also like how a lot of times when they try to make something off of a short film or make something off of a comedy sketch or anything like that, a lot of times they end up where they don't really have enough to stretch it over that 90 minutes. And it really, to me, they did a good job of kind of fleshing out that short film into a full-length movie. It didn't feel like...
It didn't feel like filler, but it was good filler.
Well, I wouldn't call it filler. I'm just saying they stuffed out the story with enough to make it a full film. It didn't seem like they were just kind of taking a little 3-minute short and just trying to squeeze every little piece out of it to kind of get the runtime going.
Yeah.
And you could tell James Wan's influence here and there. Like, you've seen the Conjuring movies, and the way that he kind of sets up the scares sometimes with a little creaking door or the lights and the way they kind of flicker here and there. I could tell that his influence was there. And I like to, usually the only person that I was worried about being kind of a pointless character was the boyfriend, but I feel like he kind of added a little bit of comic relief towards the end whenever shit started getting crazy.
Well, and in the beginning too, as well, as far as he kind of wants to move in with the girlfriend and trying to leave his sock behind.
Yeah, she
like
was.
That.
She's
like, hell no.
She won't have any attachment. But
yeah, and you definitely feel happy for him when you see certain things that happen. When you're just like, yeah, he's getting there, and then towards the end, he plays. Well,
I like how shit starts getting crazy. And as soon as the first time that he actually sees it for real, he just hauls ass. So
yeah.
I thought that was...
Well, see, not only, but even before you see him haul ass when he's in the house sleeping over the first night, and he's sleeping downstairs, and then it shows the power goes out, and the daughter gets up and walks around the house, and he's not on the couch anymore. You're like, oh, this motherfucker done left.
Yeah, exactly.
and he's really funny. Investigating. So.
And anybody who's a movie fan, too, watch this guy and tell me that he does not look like Jai Courtney and Edgar Ramirez had a baby. Because I swear to God, the whole movie, I was like, I swear he looks like somebody took their face and mashed them together. All right, so that's most of what I can say praiseworthy about the film. So what do we say? We'll talk about a little of the things that we thought they didn't pull off very well.
Yeah.
So to me, they still had a few times where they kind of stick to a horror movie cliche of the main characters making some stupid decisions.
Going into the basement.
Yeah, like going into the basement and stuff. And even though they try to give you a good reason why they would, still, it's like, okay, you guys know the fucking monster's there. You know the rules of the monster, and you're still going to try to go down there instead of just getting out of the fucking house.
Not only that, but okay, you got a monster that only comes out in the dark. You're telling me I ain't going to have like a fucking belt of flashlights and all sorts of shit, like fucking lighters and stuff. I would have had something on me. I would have invented a fucking glow-in-the-dark hula hoop.
Shit, I would look like Fred Savage in Little Monsters. I would have had like all that shit coming out all over myself.
Headlamps, I'm talking wrist lamps, everything.
Exactly. And then I was laughing too, because even though they know that the monster's still there, everybody's still going to bed at like 9 o'clock. Like, all right, guys, we're getting ready.
You're telling me I'd be sleeping during the day when it's light, or something or another, and then at night I'd be awake with my damn flashlights. I would have flipped the switch.
Exactly. So to me, that was still kind of a little bit of a dead weight. They kind of had to stick to a few of those horror movie cliches, and then I also felt like the ending was really abrupt. Like we're not gonna say what happens with the ending, but like it felt like once all the tension and all the kind of the climax starts ratcheting up, it kind of just ends really quickly.
Yeah, in a normal horror movie, when they start fighting the monster, that's midway into the movie, and it feels like this movie, that's where it ended. When they fought the monster, it was bam, it was quick, it was over, it was done, and that was the end of it.
Yeah, and there wasn't really one horror movie cliche that they didn't go into. I kind of expected them to have that typical thing where like the monster's dead, it seems, and then all of a sudden a couple scenes later, wow, it just kind of comes out again, and they're like, oh shit, it didn't work, and
it made sense when the ending happened, and
Well, it makes sense how they
why
defeated
the monster's gone now.
Yeah, it makes sense how they defeated it, but it just happened so quick. It was like, is this really it? And then it kind of ended really quick. And to me, and this isn't really this isn't the filmmaker's fault, but this is another one of those horror movies where if you can go watch it without seeing the trailers, you probably should, because I feel like a lot of the best scares they gave away. So like a lot of the best jumps and a lot of the best scenes where they really ratchet up the tension, it was just kind of an extended version of the one that we saw in the trailer.
Shit,
so you knew.
Even doing that wouldn't have helped, because we're the type of people that you see something like a trailer or something and we're like, oh shit, we see it before a lot of people see it. We know about it before a lot of people do. But this was even in theaters. So if you're going to see another movie, a movie
like The Conjuring 2, I think we saw
it shows the trailer in the movies before you see that movie. It's kind of like, hey, also check out this. So even if you were to try to avoid it on YouTube or try to avoid it on Facebook or whatever, bam, there it is in theaters.
Exactly.
So there's really no getting away from it in a way. And also, as far as kind of like the staying on track as the normal horror movies, it was kind of funny that it's like the main character or the mother befriends the only bad person where she meets her. So it's like, it's kind of cliche.
Well, I don't know. They kind of played a joke at that. They kind of turned that into a little bit of a funny line for one of the guys.
Yeah.
For the most part, it was a really good horror movie. It was a good breath of fresh air because I liked how they trimmed all the fat. And I thought the monster was really scary, but I still, if they could have escaped a lot of those horror movie cliches, I think it could have been up there with like The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2 and the Insidious movies as far as some of the best horror movies we've had in a long time.
Yeah, I feel like had we seen it here at the house, I would have had a lot more good to say about it. But like I said, being in a theater full of laughing people or people that were scared the whole time, it made me giggle. I wasn't able to be afraid of it as much.
Yeah. And full disclosure, guys, we had a really bad theater experience with this. Cause, like I said, we had people talking, we had people laughing for about 5 minutes after a scare where you couldn't hear people.
Not only that, but it was pretty packed too.
It was packed out completely. There was a woman in front of us fucking Snapchatting half the movie. Where it was ridiculous. So. It's a really good movie if you like horror movies. See it
at your house where you're able to turn the lights off and it be really quiet and dark. Watch it on a rainy night or something and get the full experience of how this movie should be seen.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll go ahead and give it our rating. So like I said, for my rating system, we've got skip it, Netflix it, buy it, or see it in theaters. So what are you gonna give it?
Buy it.
Yeah, either buy it, guys, or watch it on Netflix. But it's definitely, at least for how I view horror movies, it's going to be more of a scary experience when you're home by yourself or with your significant other or with your kids. Turn all the lights off, shut the blinds.
Get some popcorn,
out. Turn the surround sound, and you're
before you watch it.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be in for a good little ride. So that's our review for Lights Out, guys. And this has been Cody and Holly on the Cody Leach podcast, and we'll be back with another review soon.